Ebony Tutora.
Yes.
I'm saying that right.
Mhm.
Is it Tutora?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So, what is the name of the business we're talking about here today?
Oh, we're talking about Queens Recognize Queens.
All right. Perfect. All
Mhm.
right. And in that capacity, do you call yourself owner or do you have a different title?
I go by founder.
Founder. I love
Mhm.
it. Okay. All right, so we've done stories about Queens Recognize Queens before, but just remind me of how you describe the business. What is it?
So it's a holistic wellness business. So I typically focus on helping people to tap into their higher selves from a very practical and holistic standpoint. Focus typically on spirituality, healing, mindset, mindfulness, meditation, just different tools to help people. My new motto is heal and thrive.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that in the past you've held some events around this sort of thing. Is that largely how you go about achieving this, or are there other ways in which you achieve these goals?
Yeah, so with COVID, it's made me really switch to more of an online presence as well as online sales. What I'm sharing with you today is something newer that I've started to kind of integrate those same philosophies into the business. I haven't hosted events since 2019, and I'm hoping to kind of get into the virtual hosting of events, but most of my business does happen online or through my website.
Okay. All right, so in addition to selling products, are you offering services
I
online?
do.
So
Yep.
tell me a little bit more about that.
Yep. So I offer coaching services as well as spiritual reads where I have a gift where I'm able to just tap into where certain parts on people's body feels tense or energy is blocked. Um, I don't want to call it strange. I guess it's strange to people who are not in the spiritual realm, but I do offer stuff like that. I offer coaching to help people just unpack, release, let go, and really change their vision to the future and just put the past to rest. So I run a program a couple times every year called Returning to Your Throne, which is a program where I'm implementing strategies and solutions to move on from your past childhood issues by identifying them and just making peace with them and then elevating your vision to, I've helped people write books and different things like that that pertain to their goals that they may not have been able to achieve because they're focusing on I'm not enough or I can't do this or I'm not smart enough, just all the limiting beliefs that hinder us from being better. So most of my programs focus on that.
Seems like there's definitely sort of a self affirmation, maybe
Mm-hmm.
even empowerment aspect to all this.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of it began with empowerment. Queens Recognize Queens from the beginning was all about empowerment. But as I began to work on my brand, I was realizing I wasn't telling the whole picture of who I am, which I have a very deep spiritual foundation. My grandmother was very big on just being faithful and spiritual. I didn't necessarily grow up in a religious household, but definitely more on just having faith, which I think in these times right now we all need it because we all feel out of balance, we all feel unsure, we all have these feelings that are very overwhelming at one time. So I've just taken the initiative to step up and just offer what I know. But yeah, it's definitely focused on empowerment and really just understanding that you have to empower yourself.
Right. Um, on the spiritual side, I have to ask some terminology
Sure.
questions because I don't want you to bristle at certain terms, but and certainly let me know if you're uncomfortable. I think a lot of people would interpret what you're saying as being somewhat psychic. Is that a term you embrace, or
Yeah, I don't necessarily call myself that, but you could say that. Yeah, there's different spiritual abilities we all have that we don't really pay attention to. So it's, the easiest way to describe it and to share with people something very simple that happens to all of us is if you're thinking of someone and they call you, right? We all just look at it like, oh, that's just, I thought of you and you called me, but that's your psychic ability of communicating without making that phone call via energy. And energy is real, it's all around us. So, yeah, I don't call myself a psychic, but I do have the abilities to be clairvoyant and to see into the unseen, if you will.
that's great.
Yeah.
Another thing I'm curious about is, obviously you're reading and interpreting energies. do you take that information then and simply educate the person you're working with and help them to better understand and recognize those things going on? Or do you even take something similar to like a Reiki approach where you're actually giving some sort of energy therapy?
So I haven't stepped into the any energy therapy scope, but it's a little bit like it. So basically, what I have people do, and I do this live, so people can go to Instagram and see lives where I've done this openly, so that you can see that people are getting results and they are, what I do is a real thing. So basically, I just educate them. I share with them what I see. I share with them how to move past that. So if I'm feeling their heart being blocked, sometimes I'll also have like a vision of maybe them working. So I'll share with them, whether it's in your work or, something you're passionate about, you need to open your heart up a little bit and follow your heart. So when you're hearing messages, instead of being, lacking the confidence in yourself, then you need to just follow those inklings so that you can, elevate and do what it is that you dream to do. So yeah, it's a little bit of both. You just would really have to see it, and it's something that I've been identifying and really leaning into for this year. Yeah.
And are you finding that in these kind of crazy COVID times that this is something that can be done virtually, and that in some ways you're able to actually, I mean, there may be a larger market for this than ever.
Yeah. So it's distance healing. I definitely think in these times people are searching for it because we all have had to embrace stillness, right? We've all had to embrace, we're so used to being busy that we're home and we're not able to do what we typically do. So I definitely think there's a huge market for it. I think a lot of people who are weary and searching and on their journey of being more spiritual, I tend to believe I lean more towards I'm a spirit having a human experience opposed to I'm a human and I'm spiritual sometimes. So with that being said, I think a lot of people are searching for guidance when it comes to that, and not dogma and not things that make you feel bad about being human as well, So I definitely think there's a huge market for it, because I believe we are spirits having human experiences.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about the jewelry that you have here. How do you describe it, and does it have any particular significance that kind of dovetails with the other things that you're doing?
Absolutely, for sure. I mean, so basically, what the jewelry is it's comprised of healing crystals. Okay. Now, again, going back to my example of you think about someone and then they call you, right? Energy is everything. When it comes to crystals, many cultures for years have been using crystals to heal, to adorn ourselves. We use jewelry, like gold comes from the earth, we wear it. Diamonds come from the earth, we wear those. In all technology, there's the use of clear quartz crystal as a transmitter, and it does a whole bunch of other really cool things. So basically, each stone represents a different portion of your energy field. So as an example, like I have on this howlite. So howlite is a really great stone for like managing your emotions. If you tend to be finding yourself angry or overly emotional, it's something that helps you to balance that. So there is a belief, whether it's the placebo effect or not. I don't believe it's the placebo effect because obviously we do use these crystals in our day-to-day lives. Like I mentioned, clear quartz is in all pieces of technology. We have clear quartz in our cell phones. Copper is used for technology. It's kind of like Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, you can't see it, but it exists, right? It's an energy. It's a field. So basically, each piece of jewelry has different crystals in it to help people attune specific purposes. So if I've done a session with you, or if you've come on a live with me and I'm like, hey, you kind of seem like your root chakra is a little off. So the root chakra has everything to do with feeling grounded, rooted, and secure in who you are, trusting yourself, trusting the world, and just feeling a sense of foundation and belonging. And if you don't feel that, people will purchase the jewelry, that like a red piece of jewelry that has specific stones in to help really the unseen of our energy field kind of attune itself, even if it's just a reminder to ground yourself by wearing it. Like I said, the placebo effect. But yeah, each jewelry represents a different space of energy that you need to work on, or that you desire to be heightened.
Right. All right, so the point of this series, Black Owned 607, is to highlight African Americans who run businesses in our area. Mm-hmm. And to that degree, I do always ask people a little bit about their experience with being a black business owner. What has your experience been like?
Mm-hmm. I think for the online community, it's very welcoming because I'm not tied to just the Binghamton area. Um, if we're speaking towards the Binghamton area specifically, I have mixed emotions because if I hold an event, if you go back and look at any of the footage of any of my events, they've always been extremely mixed. And I don't advertise a specific way. I've even had Black History Month events, and you have a mixture of people coming. So I think it's a beautiful thing in this area. Obviously, running other businesses or working in other positions, you can see there's a divide just in this area, generally speaking. I think it's beautiful that we are highlighting the existence of other businesses or supporting black businesses. Typically, black businesses don't get as much local support, so it is good to see. But because I am online, I have a different experience because everyone's shopping online, everyone's looking for black businesses to support. So as long as I'm marketing correctly, I do really have a good amount of sales that come in. But I think locally, it's beautiful to really see people supporting black businesses intentionally, especially because we've never really done that before from an intentional level. There have been a lot of businesses that have come and shut down because they didn't get the support. So I think it's really a beautiful thing to see and experience, and I think there's a lot of new businesses that are going to come out of it.
Yeah. Now you say that your events have always been very racially mixed.
Yeah.
But I wonder, when you were first launching Queens Recognize Queens, and with something of a theme of empowerment, there's been so much talk in recent years of, all the challenges that black women face. They seem to get it from every corner. Mm-hmm. Was that at least from either your own personal experience or seeing the experiences of some of your black female friends, that sort of thing? Did that inspire this empowerment drive, or was it always colorblind?
No, I don't really, I don't even really subscribe to the colorblind philosophy, because you can't say you don't see color when color exists, right? There's the rainbow. You can't look up in the sky and see the rainbow and say, well, I just don't see a color. It exists. Obviously, nobody looks at me. I'm mixed, so no one looks at me and says, she's a part of the Caucasian community. I'm not widely accepted that way. I'm looked at as a black woman. So majority of the people that I serve are black women, whether that's one-on-one coaching, although I do have Caucasian clients. I do have male Caucasian clients. So I have an array because of what I represent, what I stand for. However, I will always speak to and speak for black women and black owned businesses. Obviously in this area, of course, there aren't as many opportunities. Someone who of my stature may not get the pay or the opportunities that someone else may get. I think a lot of it is people know each other. So if the people I know, I'm going to call them, when I have positions that are open or things that I need help with, and I know that that's something that they offer, which I think, what do they call that? Nepotism. So, I think it's definitely clearly here, without a doubt. However, I would like to focus on the fact that we are changing that narrative, and with groups like Black 607 support by I believe her last name is Burns, it shows that there is a lot of business here that you can support, and there's a variety. And I think we're moving into a culture where we can no longer have that conversation and say, well, I don't see color, because that means you don't see me. You're directly saying you don't see me. So I do speak broadly from a brand perspective. As you can see within the events and the people that come, I'm not speaking directly to one crowd. Predominantly was the crowd black? Of course it was. However, like I said, I'll always speak towards the experience and the truth of what it does feel like to be a black woman in America. However, I think we are changing the narrative, and we're showcasing that there is a lot of businesses available and there's a lot of great things that we do. Also, I think it's more or less about in the black community not really pushing to sit at tables we're not welcomed at, and even bigger than that, supporting each other. So black businesses supporting black businesses. So I think we can get so lost in the conversation of, well, people aren't shopping with us, but also black businesses sometimes don't even support their own other black businesses. So I think the discussion has been very great. I think that 2020 and beyond is going to bring on just new opportunities and possibilities for everybody to grow and really heal past racial tensions and the inequalities. And if people choose to be that way, if they choose to be closed-minded and have that perspective about life of a superiority, then I think that that's the experience that they choose, and that's perfectly fine with me. But as a brand, my standpoint is to share tools that, again, remind us that we're spirits having human experiences. Because when I think of it that way, a lot of these discussions aren't even really relevant. If I realize we're all in pain, we're all suffering, we all have forms of self-sabotage and not loving ourselves completely, then we can all really relate at a ground level. That's just the human experience. So that's my standpoint. But yeah, definitely in this area it exists. There's definitely racial tensions. You've seen it on many different levels, whether that's nonprofit, things that happen within the Broome County Jail, the marches and the profiling. I've definitely been profiled before. So that's not like an experience that I've never had. But in the same breath, I'm looking more at the opportunities and the great things that are happening right now with these conversations.
That's great. All right, so how do people connect with you? What's your main, say, website or Instagram account or that sort of thing?
Yeah, so the website is queensrecognizequeens.com. The Instagram is Queens Recognize Queens, as well as Facebook. So I do sell a lot of the jewelry pre-sale in my Instagram stories. That's a really popular way to make sales because it gives people the exclusive ability to see things like behind the scenes before I show them to everybody else, or subscribing to the mailing list at queensrecognizequeens.com. But I'm mostly active on Instagram and within the website.
How does it feel when you have the realization that you've helped someone in a meaningful way?
That's really my life's work, honestly, is helping people in a meaningful way. And if I'm able to lead people and they feel better, if they feel lighter, if they feel happier, if they're able to see, you know what, I am amazing. To me, that means the world, because we've all had those moments where we felt not good enough. That's like they say 90% of people, 99% of people struggle with that. So with that being said, that's really my life's work, is to be able to infuse the goodness that I feel into other people. But yeah, that's really my purpose, is to help people elevate so that we can feel good, so that we can step out of the struggles and the war that we have within ourselves, that we put out into the world, and really just step back and know that we are creating every moment and every second, so to make it count.